Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where every day we discuss all things to do with the market. That's the stock market, the crypto market, the NFT market, and any other market where we can make or try to not lose a lot of money on the internet. Load up discussion today. Sounds like we are not necessarily making a lot, but there's some pretty controversial stuff going on, as well as some speculative stuff. So that is exciting to see. We're going to be talking former Twitter founder Jack Dorsey making the largest workforce reduction in S&P 500 history by cutting his company blocks from 10K employees to 6K. We'll get into that. Coming fresh off the bat of the Citrini thesis that we would see the first wave of unemployment coming at the start of 2026. So we'll discuss that as everyone is talking about it. We'll talk the DX Research Group launching live agent trading with 1,500 agents controlling $25 million. Is this a bit of a start for some speculative action on the agentic crypto side? We'll discuss what that is in a little bit. And we'll talk Anthropic rejecting the US Pentagon's final offer, adamant that its own platform will not be used for surveillance on Americans or lethal military missions. So that is what we'll be discussing today. As usual, we'll talk the latest on price action and general market thoughts as well. Also, I'd like to say we've got an interview lined up with Serp from Ethos. We've had him on the show before, building a very important protocol on the reputational layer for crypto. So excited to get his thoughts on the market, excited to hear about how he's continuing to build out Ethos since the last time we spoke. And we're going to get into the rest of the stuff in the meantime. So before we do that, just a reminder, friends, nothing that we say here is financial advice. The market is very, very risky. We don't know anything for sure. So please do proceed with caution at all times and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, it's Friday. It's the 27th of February today. So how are you doing and how are you feeling?
GM, doing quite well. What's new on my end? The weather is getting lovely in Vienna, which means I can now move to my outside working space and work with agents while enjoying the sun, which is great. Which is also great. What is also great is that the weekend's coming. There's going to be more time to do that as well. Especially as the market's not looking as great today as it looked yesterday. Yesterday, I said I was happy that I sent 0.1 ETH to someone. I was like, oh, that's $200. That feeling disappeared today. And he is also not close to its all-time high. Maybe, do you know what I want to do a couple months into this year? I want to do a tracker to see how many days we've traded over the all-time high and how many days we went below, because we made this joke once when we took the day off a couple weeks ago and I was in Abu Dhabi, where we had a little company day and BTC went under 69K. And we said we're only going to do the show if BTC trades above 69K. So I'd kind of would like to know in retrospective how many days of work we would cut off if we were to follow that rule.
Could be a lot. could be a lot. Without starting the show too bearish, I've seen two kind of smaller accounts, but two accounts who I really respect. I like their thinking. They're quite contrarian. Two of the accounts I really respect talking about Bitcoin as, yeah, you're not going to like to hear this, guys, kind of an irrelevant asset in the sense that it's just a trading asset now. It's just a kind of function of where we are in the world. It's almost like a Trump sentiment coin. It's an America sentiment coin. It doesn't stand for what it used to stand for, and therefore it's not the same set of buyers anymore, and there's no real thesis to believe in the same way. This is a thesis I'm playing around in my head. I think to some degree I have started to buy into it. That's why I've de-risked a certain amount, but I would just this is the thing, right? You'd always feel sick getting rid of all of it, whereas the people who I mentioned who I have been reading and respect, and though they're smaller accounts, they've got to the point where they're comfortable not holding any Bitcoin. And I don't know if I can get to that point, because I would feel sick if it then maybe almost inevitably does go back to 100K just because sentiment improves. The winds in the market change, and I'd feel sick. And I feel like how sick would you feel if circumstances change is a great way that I have personally found managing my portfolio, because during the highs, I started asking myself, how sick would I feel if I had to sit through another 2-3 years of a bear market and not lock in some of these gains? And the answer was, I'd feel very sick. And so that was that was a great initial indicator. And now on the other side, I'm starting to think kind of the other way. Like, look, I don't believe in Bitcoin in the way that I did before, and maybe a lot of people don't, although maybe some people still hold out some hope. But I think I would feel sick if it doubled from here and I had completely gone out of it. The question is, are there other assets that if Bitcoin doubles, other assets going to double as well? And I think more than ever, the answer might be yes. And you might not need to take the crypto risk anymore. But Ledge, curious for your thoughts here, starting on a bearish sentiment.
So first of all, I feel sorry for Phunky because as you were speaking, I looked over at Spaces and was like, "Oh, Phunky's here with us. Let's get him up on stage." And then you start going all bearish on Bitcoin, and Phunky's sending crying and sad emojis as you think. On the other hand, English in the YouTube comments saying that's cause of price. If it was 150K, it would be the digital store value. That's why I sold 2B. It's kind of like this meme with NFTs, if you remember that, where you have an Azuki, and Azuki at, I don't know, 0.1 is just a piece of trash. And as price goes up, and if it has like a floor price of 100K, it's digital art. It belongs next to the Mona Lisa in the Louvre. So it is definitely a bit of, I think, price shaping the narrative. And simply as when it's up, we find a narrative as of why it's up and why it is the greatest digital store value. And when it's down, we find a reason to kick it down further. Because I fundamentally don't think anything changed about Bitcoin. Like, you still can make the point you think it's an alternative to gold, all the other things you were buying it for, but it's just the sentiment around it is bad.
See, this is, I would actually markedly take a different view on that. I think that's the traditional thing that people always say. And I don't think that's true anymore. I think something has fundamentally changed in the Bitcoin thesis recently. I think the politicization of it has had a significant effect. I don't buy the quantum thing, for example. I do think the quantum thing is exactly in that bracket of thing that you talk about, where it's like, oh, when it's at 150K, you don't care about quantum. And then when it's at 60, suddenly everyone's scared of quantum. I agree that I would put in the same bracket. But I think the politicization of it and it's vast, and I'm not saying it should always trade like gold, because the only reason it got to where it was is because it didn't trade like gold. But I do think something fundamental has changed as part of this political wrapping up of Bitcoin into the thing, and the Trump administration's involvement in it. Maybe on a long time frame, that's still fine. It's just one administration's involvement, and on a longer time frame, it will be okay. But I think that there's collateral damage from how things have played out over the last year, and maybe that core thing. I think crypto is not, and this is the fundamental thing. Maybe in previous cycles, crypto was always, in different cycles that we've seen, always the hot new thing to invest in. It is not the hot new thing to invest in, and it's not going to become the hot new thing to invest in again. That is the fundamental change. And actually, that's got nothing to do with Bitcoin as a store of value. It's just not crypto rails, or crypto itself is not the thing that is going to change the world now in the future. It's a cool thing. It's actually starting to get implemented. There's great adoption in lots of different ways. A lot of the tech is being used. A lot of people are going to start building on top of it. A lot of use cases to be unlocked, but it's not the hot new thing, and that's not going to change, in my opinion. So I think it's definitely going to suffer a little bit as a consequence. Doesn't mean it's going to go to zero, I don't think, but I think that does change the risk profile of the asset class. That's my thought. So Ledger, I don't know if you want to come back on that before we get into the main stuff today.
I want to throw it to Phunky. Curious to hear his perspective, and he has his hand up.
Tell me I'm wrong, Phunky.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but your bearishness is hurting my heart. I'm not gonna lie. I'm more with Legendary and English on this, that I think it is a function of price. And I feel as if yes, I'm not taking away anything about the politicization or just the fundamental nature of the crypto markets having changed because of TradFi's involvement. But that's the reason I will still maintain my bullishness overall, because it is becoming, Matthew was on yesterday, phenomenal interview. This is becoming part of an investable asset class that people are going to push, whether that's TradFi through the ETFs, BlackRock, great RIAs like Matthew talking about, looking for the value. His book is fantastic. I've read it. All those things I think are going to become more of a mature idea, especially for younger folks. I think it was Larry Fink who even said something, or somebody on CNBC said Bitcoin is, it might have been Kevin Warsh, the new gold. Like if you are a younger millennial or a Gen Zer, this is better than gold for those young folks. So maybe I'm wrong being a Gen Xer who's 50 years old and having so much Bitcoin. I don't know. But to your point about being sick, I feel like this is the cycle that I finally learned third time around, that maybe it's okay to sell a little bit of the Bitcoin back, but don't sell it all, because of that exact reason. You're going to be sick if it does all of a sudden something causes hyperinflation, whatever, and it shoots to, 250K plus, whatever. So maybe hang on to a few. But I feel like the next time, and Aaron and I have discussed it, we're like, okay, maybe this is the time we are actually going to lock in some gains on Bitcoin, the next time around. And we're still under cost basis. It's not a big deal, but just, I am still bullish long-term on Bitcoin in particular, blockchain as a technology. And I think we're going to see a consolidation into the tokens and ecosystems that are generating money, like HyperLiquid.
I see that you mentioned HyperLiquid right at the end there. I like that you mentioned it. And I think what I would be far more comfortable with this time round, say you're trying to catch the next wave, is trying to catch the next wave. And I think there might be an argument, which I'm entertaining at the moment, which is I don't need any Bitcoin, but I might need a hell of a lot of the best crypto token in the future. And I think that could be the best product in crypto. And I know Bitcoin in a way has been productized, but I would very much entertain. In fact, I told Rahim this at a dinner maybe 2 months ago or something. I said, I don't know about Bitcoin, but I would love to just go all in hype like the next cycle. If you really want to be brutal about it and think about purely what has the most upside, that's just an idea that I was entertaining.
What do you think about this? English in the YouTube comments is saying, if you don't believe in BTC, it's hard to believe in crypto in general. So can you be bearish BTC and bullish hype at the same time, like saying there's a breakout product while at the same time you're bearish on the major, oldest, most significant cryptocurrency?
Is it possible? See if you can pull up the Bitcoin chart against hype, Ledge. I think you might have to go to TradingView to do it.
Yeah, give me a couple seconds to get it up.
Yeah, like I think you can, because I think crypto as we know it isn't how it's going to be. Like there's products that people will end up using, I think, which are on crypto rails, and which maybe people within crypto think, oh, this is crypto, but other people are just going to use it, and they're going to have tokens, and they're going to have valuations, and it's going to become slightly more detached from Bitcoin, I think. So looking at this chart year to date, hype Bitcoin is up 60%, which is, it's up 23% on the last week. I do think there is a world where the premier product in crypto can continue to rise as Bitcoin either stays the same or goes up or declines. I mean, we literally just saw that. Hype went from 22 to, or maybe it stayed the same and then went up from 22 to 30 something, even though it's declined a bit now, whilst Bitcoin was going down. Hype stayed rock solid during that time. And so I think there is a chance that, and I'm not saying this is going to happen with, do not quote me with this for all the coins, because all of the other coins will not operate like this. This is for the 1 in 1,000 products that are produced in crypto, which actually have proper product market fit and are outstandingly successful and gain adoption from people who are not just purely crypto people. So I think all of those things need to be true to be in this bracket for consideration. And maybe one final point, since we're just going off on, just a bit more zooming out, thinking through these things before we get to the main stuff. Phunky, you mentioned this idea that, well, the reason for something to go up is that people are going to push it. Personally, after being in this space for, I don't know, how long has it been now? It's been 5 years. I only came in 2021, right? But after seeing how things go, I think people need to, the best assets people believe in for a bigger reason. And I think that is my issue with Bitcoin now. I think a lot of people have lost the belief. And actually, the thing that people are believing in now or hoping for, it's actually not belief, it's just hope. People are hoping that someone else pushes it for them. And I don't like that as a thesis. I don't think it's a strong thesis. Kind of begging for / hoping that other people are going to sell it for you. You can't control that. You don't know how well they're going to sell it. You don't know what the uptake is going to be. I do think that people are going to push it. So I'm not saying that it's not going to happen, but the underlying reason for it to get to where it was has shifted. There's been a shift. There's been a bit of a rupture. And that's why I'm putting this question mark against it. As I said, I'm still holding some because I'd feel sick if I didn't. But that is how I would articulate it. And my issue with the current thesis, which is just someone else is going to push it. I think there has to be a deeper thesis. And actually, we'll talk about some of the tokens which I think are in that bracket, which I kind of am liking the idea of without having taken a position yet. So we'll talk about that in a second. But look, we got a lot of headlines to discuss today. We've also got a great interview coming up with Serpin from Ethos. So let's get into it, starting with the price action. As always, to get you up to speed with what you need to know in today's show. But before we get there, quick shout out to our sponsors today at Yeet. We're excited to be sponsored by Yeet. Of course, the crypto casino that's done more than $1 billion in less than a year, founded by trusted names like Mando, KBM, and pro poker player Ben Lam. A reminder to only gamble for fun and what you're comfortable with. And to help there, we are giving away $500 per week randomly to players active under the Modern Market affiliate link, which Legendary will drop in the comments. We'll do another read for them today and explain how the giveaway has slightly changed. We'll articulate that and explain it later in today's show. So let's get into it, starting with the price action. We've got Bitcoin down 3%. What's going on? Is it going down as I am bare talking on the show? We're just absolutely tanking the price. Okay, so that's what the power of the modern market is. Down 3% in the last 20 minutes since we've been talking about how we don't like Bitcoin. 65.9K down 3%. ETH is down 5% to 1,900. We've got XRP down 4% to $1.38. We've got Sol down 4% to $83. And we've got Hype down 1% to $28. Getting into the meme coin side of things, we have Doge down 4%. Still around 9 cents. We've got Pepe down 6%. Pippin down 25%. Gosh, what on earth is going on with that token? Probably a buy, all things considered, given how volatile it's been. Still up 30% on the week. Pengu's down a couple of percent as well, along with the rest of the meme coins, all down a little bit. Getting into the headlines themselves, we're going to talk about Twitter founder Jack Dorsey making the largest workforce reduction in S&P 500 history at his new company, Blocks. We'll discuss that. Everyone's talking about it on the internet today. We'll talk DX Research Group launching live agent trading, where people have deposited $25 million worth of ETH for agents to trade. Ledger's going to break down what on earth that means and what's going on there. Is that something, a bit of a bright spark and something to pay attention to? And then finally, back into the macro. Anthropic rejects US Pentagon's final offer. Adamant its platform will not be used for American surveillance or lethal military missions. We'll talk about that too. Getting into the headlines themselves, the other news you need to know, Vitalik shares Ethereum quantum resistance roadmap. I've been very impressed by ETH and their constant idea shipping on what they're going to do about quantum. Former ETH.DAT ETHZilla rebrands to Forum Markets to develop tokenized products backed by real-world assets. Tech Dollar, this is kind of cool, announces structured lending for individuals and investors for the best private company equity. This is the idea that people who have verified startup equity in some of these big companies can take loans against it, and you can provide loans to them against their equity. I like that idea. I like lending in general. Let's see how that plays out. MetaMask announces its card is live in US. Users can spend yield-bearing stablecoins powered by Aave. ZachXBT revealed yesterday Axiom was the team who had insider trader misusing confidential information. Ethos announces human verification tool to combat nearly half of all of internet traffic now being automated. I did not know that the number was as high. Looking forward to talk with Serp about that latest announcement in the interview, as well as general markets today. Magic Eden announces sunsetting of multi-chain wallets and closing Bitcoin and EVM marketplaces. That's pretty sad. Bitcoin ordinals had a great run on Magic Eden, and so quite sad to see that is taking place. And finally, prominent NFT collector Adam Weitzman X account is hacked with a scam tweet. Do not get scammed in the depths of a bear market. It would not be nice to lose everything you have. Apologies if you have, but you got to be careful. So I just want to bring that to your attention. With that out of the way, Ledge, that's everything we need to know. Is there anything catching your attention before we get into the main stuff today?
Yeah, ZachXBT's investigation has been a good one. Someone in our Telegram channel put it that way. Whenever Zach is announcing an investigation is dropping and you have this excitement before it, feels a bit like game day in Web3 on CryptoX. In this case, let me get the investigation up on screen as well. It was very entertaining because you had a poly market going on at the same time. You had one of the Axiom founders, I think it was, commenting along the lines that Axiom is a safe no, it's not us. Like, this is ridiculous. It's free money on Polymarket if you bet that it's not us who Zach is going to reveal. Well, it was them. And what has happened there, to sum it up, is that Axiom is a crypto trading platform, meme trading platform. And in particular, you had a guy in there who acquired knowledge of side wallets, of KOLs, of influencers, and was able to profit tremendously of these wallets by knowing them and knowing who they were associated to. And Zach explained how he went through this process of identifying the individual wallets, identifying and checking who of the KOLs is behind them, and posting proof of that. And that has gone, as per usual, quite viral. 6 million views up to now, and another great and helpful investigation by Zach. You're muted.
There was a funny point people making that there was insider trading going on Polymarket. I think there was quite a lot of money bet on who the guilty party was, and I think in the end there was only 200k at stake in this investigation. I mean, I say only 200k, that's still a lot of money, but there was more money made, I think, and bet on the Polymarket of this investigation than was actually at kind of stake in the investigation itself. So that was an interesting point to make. One thing I wanted to point out is this is a cool, let me double click on this. This was a cool article or a book that's been written by Larry, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Larry Cermak at Lawmaster. Very respected, well-known person within crypto, has been around for years, much longer than me, president of The Block. He's released an open source book in collaboration with Frank Researcher that extends to almost every aspect of crypto. I've bookmarked it, and it's one of the bookmarks that I am going to go back to read, not just one of those things you bookmark and leave to be forgotten about. It has 15 chapters covering Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, DeFi, MEV, market structure, a whole host of interesting topics, and it's fully open source. So it's free to read, download, or share. And the objective is to get some feedback in the process at the moment for maybe the rest. I think until the end of March, you can read it and provide feedback should you wish. And then it's going to be finalized and put into a free book on Amazon for people to read. I think this is super helpful because people often talk about how to understand the fundamentals of crypto, and this isn't actually a great way. You just have to follow people on X and figure things out. Maybe you tell someone to read the Bitcoin white paper and then take it from there. But it's not a great way. This is something which it's got everything all in one place. It's kind of an up-to-date summary of where we are and the various important aspects of crypto. So it's definitely something I am going to take a read. Want to share that with you guys. Also, we'll put it in our Telegram chat if you want to read it yourself. or you can just search it for yourself. But shout out to Larry for producing that. I think that'll be interesting to have a look at. Ledge, any thoughts on this before we get to the main headlines?
I just think it's cool they put it in a GitHub.
Okay. Why?
Because it's not how I would expect to read a book online. Like, you have online book publications, you read through them, but here you have one MD file per chapter and a GitHub, and I can just throw that to my agent and be like, just fork it and keep that knowledge and find if there's anything useful for yourself in there. So that's nice that, it's not only written for a human audience, but that also agents have a native way to work with that if they wanted to do so.
Well, maybe that's why it was produced in the way that it was, so that agents can access and do things with it. Interesting. Okay, let's get to the sorry. Let's get to the main headlines. This is the first headline about Jack Dorsey, former CEO and founder of Twitter's company, The Block, just cut 4,000 people, 40% of the company. The stock surged 20% in the hour after that, added $6 billion in market cap. There were 4,000 people impacted. And by Jack Dorsey's own admission, I think he suggested that they had hired too much. He had this tweet to say, the reason why this is important is because we've just come off the back of the Citrini article, right, which suggested that the first round of AI layoffs will come early 2026. And just a few days later, out of a cohort of 10,000 people in the workforce, 4,000 have just been cut to leave, just 6,000 left. This is the biggest S&P 500 workforce reduction as a proportion of the total number of people who are there. So it's a pretty significant cut, and pretty significant based on where we are in this kind of AI cycle as people try to figure out whether we're just going to have crazy productivity gains, what that's going to do to the labor force. So it's been very significant from that perspective. He wrote this long piece, which I have, he's shared a bunch of the compensation for the people who are laid off, and suggesting that, look, I could have cut over a long period of time slowly, but I thought it's better to just do this once and quickly rather than drag it out over a long period of time. The one counterpoint, which I think people might be missing, but it has been made, and even Jack admitted this to some degree, is that, okay, fine, it sounds like a big number, but if you take this number and compare it with other maybe similar comparable companies, it's possible that the company was very much overstaffed. For example, Will Slaughter said in 3 years from December 2019 to December 2022, Block more than tripled its headcount from 3,900 to 12,500, unwinding less than half an insane COVID overhiring binge has much more to do with Jack Dorsey's managerial incompetence than whether AI is going to take your job. So this is the idea that, okay, look, it might sound like a big number, but they were overstaffed. And remember, when Elon went into Twitter, allegedly got rid of 80% of people. I don't know if that's still 100% the case, whether that number stood the test of time or whether that's been adjusted over time. But there is an argument out there that Jack runs companies in an overstaffed way. His response to that idea was that he said, yes, we overhired during COVID because I incorrectly built two separate company structures, Square and Cash App, rather than one, which we corrected mid-2024. But this misses all the complexity we took on through lending, banking, and buy now, pay later, and that now we're targeting $2 million plus gross profit per person, 4x our pre-COVID efficiency, which stayed flat at 500K from 2019 until 2024. So his position is that we have and do run an efficient company better than most. Ledge, I think the significance here is, as we stated, this relationship between what's happened immediately after the days we've been discussing whether or not AI will take lots of people's jobs. What do you think here? Do you think this is very much AI related? Do you think it is just hiring too much? Stock market liked it a lot, as I said, up 20% in 60 minutes after. So what's your take?
I think it's both. I think, of course, it's because of AI efficiencies that you can now cut people. And I would agree. Elon has fired a lot of people at X. I don't know if it's been the 80% or not, if this figure was ever confirmed of how much he had rehired maybe after that. But I think it's fair to say that Jack's company is probably not the only one who's massively overhiring. And especially now with growing AI efficiencies, if you look at many companies today, you could probably get rid of a lot of people doing stuff that AI could do. And I like that the Shopify CEO, Toby Lutke, he just for context, he loves vibe coding. Like, he is the CEO of Shopify, and he has a plugin on GitHub or a tool on GitHub called QMD, which is a memory search using a pretty cool vector database, which is even used as the native memory layer in OpenClaw. So this guy is the CEO of a very successful company with vibe coding useful tools as well. And he last year introduced a policy in his company that said, before you as a team are asking to get more people, additional headcount for whatever you want to achieve, you have to demonstrate why this cannot be done with AI and vibe coding. Like, if you can prove that whatever your need is cannot be covered by AI, then sure. And if it's obviously useful to the business, then sure, you should have more headcount to do that. But if not, then figure it out yourself, and don't hire people. And I feel like that a ton of companies are not in this place. And if you would look at a large part of smaller businesses of S&P 500 companies and look at the tooling that is available right now, especially now after you can see all of the Anthropic plugins, which have been open sourced, and they have been developed with very, very good partners. Like for the accounting and financial services plugin that they have, that was developed with one of the big four, with PwC, for example. And if you basically have this as your like benchmark, then I would bet you that you can fire a ton of people across S&P 500 companies and make the same point. Oh yeah, they're way too bloated. Of course, because the tooling has completely changed, and the world was a different one, a massively different one in 2019, 2020 when COVID happened, and we did not have that. Maybe, yes, he was overhiring back then, and he now decided to correct for that. Could he correct it for that earlier? Probably, but he decided to do it now. And I think it's great. And I think maybe it's also a wake up call for other companies to have a deeper look at their own structures and to see if they can optimize for more AI, tool use. And thinking about the employees in this case, you said compensation package. It's actually a pretty generous one. It's 20 weeks of pay plus one additional week per year of tenure. Equity is vested through the end of May, 6 months of healthcare, keep all your corporate devices, get an additional 5K. So it is a nice exit package that the employees are getting. But I do think that news like this will become more common over the next couple of years.
Okay, well, we'll keep on top of it. A lot to monitor on the AI developments and how that's impacting these big companies in a big way. I suspect, as you say, there's a lot of bloat around a variety of these companies. Staying on the AI topic, let's just get into the second headline here. Pretty interesting news coming out of DX Terminal Pro. Shout out to Artomy in our Telegram chat who shared the question, did anyone get in this? This is pretty exciting on the agent side. Some big numbers involved too. What do we need to know?
Yeah, this is a very, very fun experiment that is happening. So basically, you have this trading terminal that is built for agents and agents only. There is more than 1,500 agents participating in that. As you said, 25 mil roughly deposited inside of it. And the way that it works is that the agents in there are trading completely autonomously. There's 6 currencies that they can choose to trade. You, as the human, cannot trade. You cannot override them, manually execute your trades. You can help them in formulating strategy. You can help them in setting prompts and maybe trying to anticipate what other agents will be doing and trying to outperform the competition and making it high up on the leaderboard. But that's it. Like, once you set your agent to do whatever trading strategy your agent is up to, it is out of your hands and you cannot override that. And it's running for 21 days. It's getting even more interesting after the first 7 days, when then the weakest currencies will start to get eliminated. So that will happen repeatedly. The tokens will die. The liquidity will consolidate to the survivors. And one of the creators beautifully put it that they created financial Darwinism as part of this experiment. I think it's one of the most interesting experiments right now, which we're seeing with agentic trading and agentic trading at a larger scale. And I think one of the cool outcomes of that will be to see what people have prompted and how they've been running their agents and what we can learn from that. One caveat to add is that you do not bring your own model. Everyone's using the same Quen model for that trading challenge. Terminal.markets, so DXRG themselves are running the NVIDIA hardware in the background where these agents are running on. So you where the LLMs are running on. So you don't get to bring your Opus, your Grok, and figure out which model is the best. The only human differentiation in there is the prompting, and Aaron's running on the same model, which makes it even more interesting or more of a fair and level playing field for everyone involved, both on the agentic and human level.
Interesting. So just quick question here. So these tokens that are created, they're not real tokens for anyone else to trade. It's only tradable for these agents that are participating.
That is my understanding of that, yes.
But they're not, there's no differentiation in the model. So how on earth is this?
Well, you prompt the agent to have a trading strategy. That's your human input.
I don't know if this is dumb or if it's fun, or maybe it's both. It sounds like it might be dumb, but I can't say. I mean, I guess this is the kind of experimentation that people like in crypto. You know, the thing for me is that I like to look at these games and try to think of how to win. Like, is there a way to win? Is there a way to do something thoughtful with your agent, or is it just pure gambling, pure guesswork, pure gambling? If it's the latter, then okay, I understand. But then maybe I need to adjust the way that I participate. Whereas if there is some type of actual strategy, then that would probably make me more interested. At the moment, based on the way you described it, it sounds like everyone's got the same model. You just pile in, you probably give it some instructions, but they're all made up tokens as well, right? So how does anyone even, go to the token, go to the tokens ledge?
It's made up tokens for the challenge, but it's real tokens.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, what you're going to tell your agent to go all in on poop coin and short hot dog or something, but that it doesn't really mean anything, does it? So
let me add a layer to this for you, which you might find more interesting. Then all the trading strategies are on chain, and while yes, all of the agents are using the same model, nothing would stop you from running an analysis with a way more sophisticated model on chain to try to figure out, okay, what are these strategies of the 1,500 other agents in this competition? If you can see that, I don't know, 60% of agents are longing poop coin, as you said, then you might like, yeah, okay, that might be the consensus play here. So if you can identify patterns from analyzing what other agents are doing, and then you're prompting your agent to do the same, following the winning or the trending strategy. So you have outside layers of doing additional research, but within the game, everyone's using the same model.
Okay, well, that would be the way to create some differentiation, right? So maybe that's the way you do it if you're trying to win. That's what I'm trying to understand. Is there a way to win this, or is it just pure agent gambling? Maybe we need to explore a little bit more detail, because to be fair to them, I have not dug in myself, but pretty cool. Shout out to Artemi in the Telegram for bringing that to our attention this morning. Glad we could share that with you. Final headline before we get into the conversation with Serp, who is joining us from Ethos in just a little bit. Ledge, final headline on Anthropic. It did develop their communications with the Department of War. What do we need to take away from it?
Yeah, we reported earlier this week that Anthropic was confronted with an ultimatum to comply with the demands of the Pentagon, which were to do with two particular safety stipulations, which Anthropic was asked to drop, one of which being around the mass surveillance of American citizens, US citizens, and the other one being of allowing Claude to fully autonomously execute military operations, including kill operations, without any human in the loop. Something that Dario Amodei said he is not willing to do and compromise on, and Anthropic has responded with the statement upkeeping this opinion. They do have this deadline set by the Pentagon today that they will basically not cave in to fully autonomous weapons and mass domestic surveillance. And there's basically two lines of threatening or threats going on from the Pentagon. One is to do with applying a specific act that basically could still force Anthropic to do that, and the other one would be to remove them completely from this military supply chain, basically invoking another act, another law that would stipulate that anyone who is willing to work with any branch of the U.S. military has to prove that they are not using Anthropic in any way, shape, or form within their own company, both of which would not be good outcomes for Anthropic. Obviously, the interesting, or the part that I think is very relevant about this, is the whole societal discussion behind it. And it's not only Anthropic. Anthropic is basically the scapegoat, which is now fighting or is defending itself from the Pentagon and from other people from the Department of War, even tweeting about that, saying that you have to support the U.S. military if you're an American company, and you have to trust the military that they're taking the right actions. Because at the same time, you also have 3 other AI companies who have contracts with the Pentagon, and these companies being OpenAI, xAI, and Google's Gemini. And obviously, all of them would be required to, if they are deemed as sophisticated enough, to follow the same wishes, regulations, and stipulations by the Department of War.
Yeah, I think this is going to be another one which splits the country and maybe even the world to some degree. I think on the one hand, you have people saying that, look, they're saying from a very safety perspective, it is not possible. These models can't be trusted yet to do fully autonomous weapons. Like, it will just make mistakes. It's not there. It's not ready. We can't do it. And so they're saying it from the safety perspective. But I guess the more patriotic people are saying, look, we need it now. We're going to use it in the way that we deem necessary. And it is not acceptable in this kind of global AI race and arms race. And now these two things are obviously coming together, defense and AI connected, that it is not acceptable for you to not be supporting your country when you're in the race against the other major countries who might be willing not to obey certain parameters and restrictions or moral concepts, which maybe they have or have not done in the past. So I think it's a tough one. It's a tough one. And I think that it's definitely not going to get resolved. Well, let's see how it's going to get resolved, because I think it's not going to be the end of it. So let's see how it goes. We'll keep an eye on it. It's definitely one of the more interesting developments, how AI is kind of becoming increasingly important on the defense side of things as well. So we'll keep an eye on it. We'll keep you in the loop as always. As part of our general reporting on the AI stuff, of course, we're focusing on crypto, but we're also going into the AI direction as much as we can, as much as we find it interesting. But now we're going to move on to our interview today. Absolutely delighted to welcome to the show Serp. He's the co-founder and CEO of Ethos. Serp's been in crypto for a long time, but it was during the last cycle he went from trader to hedge fund manager. And then running that fund and watching the sheer volume of rug scams and paid shilling up close is what planted the seed for Ethos, an on-chain reputation and credibility protocol that's essentially building a credit score for crypto. And he was also very involved in Friendtech. That also showed that you could tie on-chain actions to social identity, and but completely failed to address trust at that point in time with Friendtech. So Ethos lets users review, vouch for, and slash other participants with real money staked behind it to create credibility scores that are portable, verifiable, and expensive to game. So today we'll talk about why morals are expensive in Web3, the mechanics of on-chain reputation, and Ethos's role in elevating reputation, and whether trust can actually become the most valuable asset in crypto. So Serp, welcome to the show. Good to have you back with us for your second time with us. How are you doing, my man?
Thanks, man. That was an amazing intro. There are lines there that I might have to steal myself when I introduce ourselves to the future. So that was awesome. No, great to be here. How are you guys doing this morning?
Absolutely great. We'll send it over to you. Or Legendary will get his AI agent to shoot it over to you in no time. Uh,
It was really good. It was just one of those like, damn, I didn't even think about that. That's a good way to put that. So yeah, I love it.
Good stuff. Before we get into the main stuff, Serp, obviously we have chatted Ethos before with you, and we're going to get into some of the cool new developments that you've done. We're going to want to set the base again for the conversation today. But just talking about this other AI stuff, I know you're always a tinkerer in tech, always experimenting with the new stuff. What's your view on today's layoffs by Jack, former Twitter CEO, and the power of AI to force companies to lay off further and reinvest into compute? Did you have a view on the Citrini article that was kind of very, very bearish as well? What's your view?
A little doomerish on the Citrini article for sure. But I read Citrini saying a couple weeks ago that he was basically like, there's the best opportunity potentially ever in the market lies in front of us. And then he said, and I have no idea what it is. And I was like, well, that's a little scary. And then he went kind of a little bit further down the doomer route. I've been vibe coding on stream for 6 months before, vibe coding really got picked up over the last, December timeframe. I've been using AI in our code base, not as a dev, but as, someone who barely knows how to code for a couple years now. And the jump is definitely startling. I think that's why you see people have that kind of reaction. Like the jump to get to Opus 4.6 and 4.5 was like, oh, I see now. And so I think that's why you're seeing this reaction. And to be honest, it's definitely warranted. When I think about layoffs and I think about companies saying, okay, well, we're going to get rid of 40% of our staff, that seems pretty extreme. It might seem that, maybe he used that as kind of the scapegoat for why he wanted to lay off 40%. But, I think as a business owner, you should be thinking about like, maybe not like what can I get for less, but what more can I get out of my employees? And I'd like to think that's how, especially those of us who run teams that are much smaller, are thinking right now of like, how do I actually turn this great innovation, this ability to code, almost exclusively without looking at it, into everyone on my team can perform 10x higher? Because then you take a team that's 10 people and it looks like 100 people. It's a lot harder to do that when you have 10,000 people. So I think that's where you get the tension.
Let me jump in here with a question, because you also build OpenChief.
Yeah.
I have the demo up on screen. So basically what you did there is you have created 15 employees for your company, for anyone's company to use if they go on your GitHub and are taking this tool. And you have the CFO, head of HR, a researcher who's researching what competitors are doing on Excel. All of these things, all of these employees are coming up with a daily report. You have built a pretty cool layer actually to allow to connect to Slack, to other tools as well. So none of the agents needs to know any of the APIs or webhook formats or anything. They just read that. It runs extremely efficiently because everything on the agents and the tasks is in the JSON file. I think you said it's 12 cents a day to get. That's the insane part. It's 12 cents a day to get 15 employees that are reviewing all parts of your business and give you feedback. And in your article, you said you got quite some excellent feedback from your additional employees. So how are you using that for Ethos, and what have been some of the game-changing things that came from your tooling here?
Yeah, this is great because it's kind of the flip side of what I was saying with people getting laid off because of AI. This to me is like, how do you enhance all of your workflows because of AI and make yourself a bigger, better company? If you take a step back and you look at startups, and you try to build a startup in 2001, you had to do things like go hire an HR team or someone that knew how to integrate an HR system. You had to go pay someone legal counsel without knowing anything about legal, even though you're in your first 4 days of building a business. You had to know all of these different things about how to run and operate your business. You ended up spending like 25 or 30% of your time doing it. Well, that's not optimal for trying to build a startup. You're trying to build an idea. You want to try it as fast as you can. You want to iterate and build and ship and learn. And in the past 20 years, what you saw was all of those things became really easy. You could just go buy a piece of software that did HR for you. You could just go buy a piece of software that integrated payroll and offered benefits. And oh, click this one button and now you have 401k. Like the advancement there was pretty significant in terms of what you could buy with software. And it allowed startups to run even more efficiently. Well, what you don't have in a lot of cases is kind of what you're showing here with OpenChief, which is like, what if you could actually take that a step further and just have someone passively observing everything in your business as if they were an employee, as if they were someone that had legal expertise? Because to be honest, like Opus 4.6 is pretty good at legal advice. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. And to me, this is like a new layer of like unlock that we can really get with AI, where before you could spin up a new payroll provider and connect all of those things. Well, now you have someone that's watching your payroll, and now you have someone that's saying, well, you should be considering this, or hey, you have an employee that it sounds like they're moving from X to Y. Have you considered, what that means for your employer of record, what that means for paying them and taxes obligation and stuff like that? And when you're a small startup, you don't have the capacity to even think about some of those things. So this is where I think we will continue to see. I mean, I do have this strong belief that a lot of teams will be very strong as very small teams, and being able to use something like OpenChief unlocks a lot for them, because you don't have to employ someone who is necessarily an expert at data research. You could have an agent that's sitting there observing and saying, hey, I mean, literally said this to me this week, like, hey, you're about to launch a new feature. I noticed at an Amplitude where we track data analytics, we don't have any type of instrumentation, except it wasn't that nice about it. It was like yelling at me, like we were going into this launch without any type of analytics and conversion. And you're like, yeah, if I employed someone, that's what I would expect them to tell me. So TLDR, like what I had built is a tool to help us. I just decided to open source it because it's so easy to build code now. Why not let other people get benefit from it? I mean, I literally just pushed code to it like 4 minutes ago. So I'm like constantly writing code for it because we're using it as our business. And these really do exemplify some of the gains that I think you can get as a founder, where, man, I don't want to have to think about making sure I saw every message. It will even bring up stuff about HR to me. It looks like someone is staying up super late every night. Maybe you should check in on them to make sure that they're like doing okay. And it's really impressive.
That's really fascinating. It's amazing work. And I think this open source stuff is going to be so useful for, as you described, like the smaller teams that maybe don't have the capacity to have more people. It's going to 10x their capability, I think. So that's awesome. Maybe shifting more to staying on AI, but maybe shifting more to the product side. These agents are being utilized all the time now, trading autonomously, launching tokens, interacting on chain. As someone building a reputation layer, and we're going to talk a little bit more about why verification is so important for you. How do you think about the world where a growing share of on-chain participants aren't even human? Does Ethos have a role to play there more broadly? What's your read on where the crypto AI agent narrative is actually heading?
Yeah, I won't lie to you. I've been pretty vocal about calling out that most of the agentic stuff that we have in crypto is a bit of a LARP. When I think about something like Moltbook, where you had
what makes you say that? Because that's a strong statement.
Yeah. So let's start with like the normie example is you had Moltbook a few weeks ago, OpenClaw, you had these OpenClaw instances, and people were like pretending like their OpenClaw instances were posting Reddit-like posts to a site. And that concept, that idea that like, oh my God, what if AI could just like interact with each other? It's like so alluring and interesting and intriguing to people that they will just like blindly believe that it's real. And I think that that's true about crypto in a lot of ways, to be honest, but it's a really potent combination when you combine crypto and AI. And so I think people are in love with the idea that there could be this combination of crypto and AI doing something. But today they are still driven almost exclusively by human instruction. And I think you're starting to see some of it emerge where the instruction gets much more complex. the programming of it is like, okay, you made this decision. Now consider this decision. Now go buy this. Now go sell this. Do whatever. And so it's starting to get better. But I'm not sold, and still think we're very far away from the idea that agents could be truly agentic without programming and say, I need to go buy this API because I'm going to build myself up and I'm going to sell this class on my website or whatever. So I feel like that gap is very far still. That doesn't change what my answer will be in a second, but that's how I kind of think about it. That's how I've been thinking about the crypto kind of AI intersection that we've seen so far.
Very interesting. Okay, well, if the AI agent thing is maybe a little bit of a mirage at the moment, talk us through then what this latest human verification method you just announced yesterday as part of the bigger goal of what you're building at Ethos and why you think that specific issue is so important.
Yeah, so this is me explicitly trying to solve a problem that I see today, where I feel like a lot of the AI stuff that we're seeing out there is futurism and kind of hope for what things could be. What I see in the problems today, and like what the video is showing right now, is like we used to have this amazing internet where even if you were to go back 20 years, like Neopets is in there. And I don't know if you guys played Neopets. And it's like 2001. It was the fourth highest website in terms of traffic in 2001. And it was just a game. It was just a game that we played together, right? And you look at the internet today and it's like incredibly optimized. Like everything is just fed to you. It is driven by basically money effectively through advertising. And that internet is going to be further missing, I believe, when you have agents who look and talk and operate on behalf of people, whether they're agentic or not is another debate, but they're out there promoting something on Reddit when, you know, it's not an authentic human on the other side of it, or they are, you know, spamming replies on X when it's not necessarily a real person. And so the problem I see is that the agents will grow to effectively infinity. The ability for them to grow to infinity is not bound like we are bound in how many human bodies can exist at any given time in the world, right? And without that upper bound, what you get is this kind of tension between the relationship of something that can like replicate itself infinite number of times and us as humans. And that will continue to grow on the internet because these agents can continue to appear like humans. And so we launched yesterday human verification from Ethos, which is, you know, we want to start identifying who real people are. It's not necessarily that they aren't producing AI generated content. It's just that they're real people. And we think that this like, you know, description or attestation that you are human will become incredibly important as the, you know, as AI agents or people that look like AI online are able to basically infinitely replicate themselves.
That's really, it's really important. It was a funny image in that video that you were just showing of the big eye scan.
Yeah.
Which is obviously, look, that is one way that people are attempting, literally with Worldcoin and whatever's going on with the world orbs and in the Worldcoin ecosystem. That is one way to attack the problem of trying to figure out if someone is a human or not. You can scan their eyes and get your verification. But you have fortunately you're not taking that route. So
right.
what is the route that you're taking, and how does the mechanism work to try to get to some serious answer here? Because in reality, as you say, this is a humongous issue. So many people are even leaving X or finding X difficult to navigate because it's so populated with not real people, you know? So what's your method here?
Yeah, well, I will say that like every time I read something on X now, I'm like, I have no idea if this is a human or not. Like you know who's in your circle, right? Like I can read something from you guys and it's like, okay, I know that it's real. But you read the replies and you're like, no clue, right? Like there's just no way of knowing. And then sometimes I will reply and I'm like, I wonder if someone thinks I'm just a bot here. I'm writing a real thing, right? But
it has this really demotivating effect, right? On both sides. As a content creator, you get demotivated even reading your comments because your first thing is this person real? Is this person real? Before you
should I
reply?
reply? Yeah.
And then on the other side, it's like, oh, is anyone gonna recognize me as a person? So Yeah, real issue.
Yeah, it is funny because I did bring up yesterday that like this is an old problem on the internet. Like there are people that have been, LARPing as humans when they aren't for a very long time. Back in the 4chan days, there was this idea of if you put your shoe on your head, that was how you proved that you were a real person. And you would take a picture or you would have a video or a stream and you would put your shoe on your head, and that would be like, okay, this is a real like we didn't have anything close to what we have. We didn't have video rigging for VTubers or anything like that back then. Like it was just very basic. So this problem isn't new either. Now the eyeball scanning is the place where we wanted to differentiate ourselves. You look at something like Worldcoin. There's also Humanity Protocol out there, which does palm scanning. I think they do face scanning as well. There are a bunch of competitors out there now that are also doing different types of face scanning. And one, it is incredibly against the original cypherpunk values. Why would we ever want to give up personal biometric data? Two, they have often implemented it as ZK proofs. So in theory, it is difficult or impossible to crack and share that identity. However, like you're still scanning your eyeball. And there's still, a thing on the other end that is reading the uniqueness of your iris, and I don't think people are comfortable with that concept. So it's also difficult to scale that, right? Like I don't know if you guys have Worldcoin IDs, but like you can't just open your phone and do it, right? Like it takes time. You have to go travel somewhere. You have to go get it done. That doesn't scale super well. And so what we said is, well, how can we just leverage our platform? Like we have built Ethos truly to be an infrastructure product. It allows things to be built on top of it. So if you have this trusted network of people who, have a lot of social signals, have skin in the game, and really care about their reputations because we've made it measurable, then you can allow them to attest who real humans are. You can allow them and confidently say, well, as long as there's risk on the other side of it, you can say who is a human and who isn't. And I think that was our kind of big takeaway is like, today there are only 100, 200 people that could do it because it's our validator NFTs. It's the people that were always closest to what we have built. It's not going to scale tremendously to start, but it allows us to experiment. But it would allow a world where anyone could go to a meetup and say, oh, I met these 100 people in real life. And all of these people, I can now verify them as human. And or hey, I joined a video chat with them and I now have this ability to say like I'm like reasonably confident that they're not fake. It's not going to be right 100% of the time. There are going to be people that try to abuse it, and we know that. That's kind of why we are trying to approach it with a like we want to learn by shipping here, understand how people would attack it, understand how people would abuse it, but then also ensure that we have enough skin in the game where people are considerate about who they verify.
I remember that's something you said the last time we were on the show. And you said, like, of course, people will try to game the system if there's a system worth gaming, and this is how you learn and optimize from it. So, how do you think about like the human verification right now? Is this a permanent status? Can that be challenged? Like, take myself as an example. I have an Ethos validator. I am a verified human. And now, say I hand off all of my comms to my agent, and whenever we interact on X, you think, oh, I'm interacting with Legendary the human, but on the background, I'm completely agentic. And you run maybe into the same illusion of thinking you're talking to a human because I'm verified, but I am not longer interacting. So is there a possibility someone's status of being a human when you kind of start to get suspicious because we hang out
half human
here and you tell me
half human.
I don't remember anything that we chatted about the last time.
So this is a really interesting question and important nuance where I think it's easy to get kind of caught up. Like right now as humans, I feel like we're kind of optimizing around, is something AI generated or human generated? And over time, that is going to get murkier and murkier, right? We can probably go back to history not too far and see people arguing about this and, architectural communities of like, well, did you draw this house or did you have this computer, application drawing system help you? And like, and at first people were like, how could you use CAD software to like, engineer this building? And then all of a sudden it was just like, no, that's literally how you do it. So I tend to not get too caught up in the concept of like, is something AI generated or human generated? And to be clear, that's not really what we're trying to prove either. It's trying to prove that there's another human on the other side of it. And the easier way to actually consider what we're doing with human verification is to consider what you get out of removing the people that aren't human verified. And so you might be using agents to reply, or you might be using agents to communicate with people, but you are one person and we verified you as one person. The other side of that is for every one person, there will be 999 agents that are replying in comments to things. And the last nuance I'll add here is this is why I don't believe you can just ship pure proof of humanity. It is a tiny sliver of the equation where reputation represents the entire pie. And it's more about like, hey man, like, is your agent rude to me? Like, is he like cursing me out? Is he do I like talking to him? And it's about being a reputable human, not just a human at all, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've always used tech to leverage ourselves, right? And in some ways, the agent is an extension of that. So it's still human, still humans behind it.
Human supported, yeah.
Human is agent assisted or something like that. I've got two business questions for you, Serp, because I'm very intrigued on the business side. And then we're going to have to close out because I'm conscious of time. But from a business retention, from a business perspective, retention is so important. I think about this all the time from our partnerships and stuff. It's obviously harder to find 100 new people to work with rather than finding 5, 10, 15, 20, 100 good people and then, retaining them. You said recently that you've kept, I don't know if this was hyperbole, but you said you've kept 100% of people after October the 10th, when crypto went through a big collapse, when others have dropped 50% in usage. What numbers kind of gave you the confidence to believe in that? And how did you manage to achieve that, given that I think, as the markets go down in crypto, things always kind of drop off. So what's giving you that confidence?
Ethos is inherently less speculative, right? It's not like, I'm going to log into Ethos today and roll the dice on, a coin that some content creator made. And I think that gives it a lot more resilience to stuff like bear markets. In fact, gives us the opportunity to shine in bear markets where people are then like, wait, this was the guy that was screwing me over 6 months ago. I want to go onto Ethos and write a negative review, or I want to go participate.
So it's actually better for you.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. To be totally frank, I do think it's better for us. What I would say is, so we had kind of been growing all year from January to October in terms of daily actives, weekly actives, and monthly actives. We also track monthly active visitors, so people who are viewing the site and getting some benefit by looking at a profile without being logged in. 10/10 happened, and you definitely see a decline. But the decline is about 10% over the past 4 months, since, I guess, 3 months since 10/10 happened. Yeah, 3.5 months since it happened. And as a, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, especially someone with Web 2 experience, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? Like your product should be growing all the time. And it is kind of a weird thing to be like, wait a second, like my DAO and my WoW have had these pullbacks. But I started to realize, as builders in crypto, we really should be measuring ourselves against a baseline, which is we have seasonality in the space, period. People do not, sorry, you're on mute, but people do not have any sense of like stickiness whenever, Bitcoin drops 40%. So it is difficult to retain those users. And this is like my statement here is like, compared to the baseline, we're like, there were about 1 million, daily actives on base. Now there's like 400,000 daily active addresses on base. And looking at, how does that match up against Pump Fund, or how does that match up against these other apps that people are using? is pretty similar. They're all dropping off about 50 to 60% over the past 4 months. And so I started measuring us against the baseline. Incentive models help. We introduced a new incentive model with XP Season 2. We have ways to engage with users. We've always tried to retain engagement that way. But yeah, that's kind of how we've approached it thus far. And I think it's paid off for us in the end.
Very interesting. We came to the same conclusion the other day. Even on the media side, you have to give yourself a little bit of slack and say, okay, we are kind of seasonal as well.
Yeah.
We'll have amazing bull times, and then in the downturn there will be a little bit of a pullback. We're kind of like correlated with Bitcoin in that way. Final question on the business side, sir, before we close out. You've had a lot of interesting integrations with large protocols who've used your data set. I think the data is pretty important for you guys. Have you managed to monetize this, or do you have different plans for monetization? I remember we spoke a little bit about this last time on the show. Like, what's the grand plan here on the revenue side, or is it still just about creating this amazing data set and great group of verifiable people?
I am all about distribution right now. Our goal is not have anything to do with revenue today. And that's because with this type of product, you need to become ubiquitous. You need to become the standard. You need to become what everyone considers. And so it is better for me to give away API access for free. It is better for me to go to partners and hook them up with, you should be on our website. You should offer something to our users. Like, that is so much better for us than trying to make money off of it, because that kind of like digs our feet into the space, and we can set the standard. Because in crypto, it is very difficult to build moats. It is almost impossible to, like, Uniswap does not have a moat. It sounds crazy, but if you really think about it, they don't have a moat, right? You could use CowSwap now. CowSwap, like, there's 15 different swaps. Everyone forks Uniswap every day on every different L1 or L2, and we believe that we actually do have a moat that we're building, and that's why we're giving it away for free right now. Like, the moat that we're building is this data set, and your desire to not go do it again, right? I don't want to go write over reviews for people again. I don't want to go vouch for people I already vouched for. Like, that becomes our kind of moat. And so that's why we've always been exclusively focused on distribution.
Fascinating. Yeah, that cumulative effort and publications becomes the moat that no one wants to go through again. Yeah, I like asking this question because obviously different businesses are very different. Yours is quite unique in the industry. So I'm sure that'd be very, very helpful for the people listening in. And Serp, it's been great to have you with us. Is there anything else that we've missed? Anything else you'd like to share with the audience before we close out?
I don't think so. I think just go, if you haven't logged into Ethos in a while, we are a team that continuously ships. We should be able to ship 10 times faster now with AI. But we are constantly trying to solve net new problems that most people aren't thinking about. And I think it's a bit of fresh air if you are tired and exhaustive of other apps that are just doing the same thing every month. It's something the same that people are just copying each other for. If you're interested, go check it out again, especially if you haven't logged into the site in a while, because we're constantly shipping updates. We're constantly learning from the things that we've built, and have the opportunity to continue to improve on it. And there's plenty in the pipeline of things I'm excited about to come back on the show and share with you guys.
Absolutely. We'll have to do it again. Serp, thanks so much for joining us, man. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
That's it for today, guys. That's it for the week. Thanks so much for joining us. As always, shout out to Serp from Ethos. Thanks to Legendary for co-hosting with me. We'll be back same time, same place on Monday. We hope you have a wonderful weekend. If you're wondering about the Yeet giveaway, we will do that and announce the winner in the Telegram over the weekend. And if you're not in the Telegram, but you have been participating, we will get that information to you after the show or tomorrow. We hope you have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.